Hi there, I'm Julie Cole, co-founder of Mabel's Labels, and I'm here with my very good friend Alyson Schafer, who's a parenting expert and a family counselor, and we are going to be talking about all things back to school.
Back to school 2021.
Yeah, that new style, right? Kicking it 2021 style. Alyson, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of your background and your kind of parenting philosophy?
Sure. So I am a parenting expert. I'm a family counselor. I do see people in private practice all the time. And I've also written some books on the subject matter, but I trained in Adlerian psychology, which a lot of people don't recognize as a brand. They might be more familiar with democratic parenting. So it's a non-punitive, non-reward-based style of parenting, and it's holistic, and so it's not the permissive, child-centered, and neither is it ruling with the iron fist. It's that how to find that little sweet spot right in between. So people like it in theory, but then they're like, yeah, but what do you do when they're tantruming and you ask nicely and they won't get in the car? So I've got the answers for those kind of how to really do it when it gets sticky.
So no spanking, right?
No spanking, no spanking, no spanking. Not that we all haven't had one of those bad parenting moments. Yeah. I always say to parents, I'm not going to take away one of your parenting techniques or tools or tactics unless I replace it with something else that's going to work for you. Because parents, they're well-intentioned. They don't know what to do. They get stuck. Yeah. And so, you know, it's not enough to say don't do that. We were just talking about this with the kids. Don't tell kids what you don't want them to do. Tell them what you want to do instead. And I have the very same rule for parents.
Oh, that's awesome. And Alyson obviously has a bunch of online courses. Again, her books, which I've all read, and you go live as well on Facebook.
I go live and I put a lot of tips, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to get these little, what I call them is bite-sized nuggets of something that you can apply pragmatically, immediately, like that. The truth is, if it works and it's respectful, parents are happy. They want more. Give me another thing that's respectful and works. Like, get me out of the bind. So I try to give lots of help that way. And then I've got my podcast, which gets a little bit more into theory. If you really want to and I love theory. I like getting.
You are an academic nerd.
I am, and it's also because it's a philosophy for living. It's a philosophy for how we get along with one another. And kids learn cooperation in their childhood. We have to cooperate in our marriages. We have to cooperate in the workplace, and we have to cooperate with our differences. Look at vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers. Look at Democrats versus Republicans. Pick your topic. We can't be polarized. We have to get along with difference, and so we learn that in our nuclear homes. So I'm passionate about it.
Love it. That's amazing. Okay, and of course you're dealing with a lot of families, and you're hearing from a lot of parents right now. Back to school is around the corner, and people are feeling anxious. What are you seeing right now with your families or out there? What are people feeling most anxious about, would you say, right now with back to school?
What's interesting, I think parents don't realize how much their anxiousness about their kids is actually an infectious source of why kids are anxious. So parents are worried. They like to generally be successful at parenting by managing the situation.
Okay.
We have a control and manage kind of attitude. I've got to be a good parent. I've got to do this right. I've got to make sure my kids are fine. And they don't like that this has been a very ambiguous year, that the rules keep changing, that we're in and we're out and we're this and we're that. And so as we try to give ourselves a parenting report card, we're having a really hard time ticking the boxes. So I'm like, we're not a spreadsheet, we're human beings. Right. This is the year to test our resiliency and to say you didn't know, you look, you see, you try, you adjust. Like, we have to really prove that resiliency, and we have to hold hope for our kids where they may not have it for themselves. So we need to say, you know what, we're on this. You know what, the schools are excited to have people back, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. And so we have to have that positive faith in them, faith in ourselves, but really to have that positivity that, whatever it is, we're up for it.
And you know what, I feel like I just went through this actually when I took my two boys. My two little guys are at sleepaway camp.
First time?
And no, it's not the first time, but they missed last year, right? Yeah. And I felt like it made them, I think a lot of kids are used to kind of hanging out with mom and dad now. So they were pretty kind of like, one was super excited about going, the other was like, I'm going to be so homesick, and was really nervous. And I felt really strongly that when I did the drop off, I had to be like, bud, you got this. And I definitely didn't want him to see that I was anxious about him going, because I am. Yeah. I'm very anxious, but I was just like, I don't want him worrying about me. Mm-hmm. And I want him seeing that I have confidence. I was just like, bud, you can do this, and I'm going to miss you, but it's going to be great. You're going to have the best experience. And to your point, like, I just thought if he sees if he senses for a minute that I'm anxious about it, that's not going to be helpful.
No, because anxiety, the whole thing about anxiety is it's the child's perception that the future, they're anticipating that the future is going to have something negative in it.
Right.
And so if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be extra homesick because I haven't been away for a while, or I don't know whether or not the camp protocols are going to be the same as last year, because of COVID, or I don't know who's going to be in my cabin this year. I always had the same group of friends, and the friend groups have changed. For kids, the social piece is huge, right? So when they get their friends and they get the routine, then they settle in and things are fine. But to your point, it's common to be anxious. That's okay. It's one of the core emotions. We have 5 core emotions, and anxiousness is one of them. And it's trying to be your friend. It's trying to keep you safe. So we need to be able to say to them, just like homesickness is, yes, you miss home, but you know what? You get to go to camp and go. Yeah. You get to go canoeing, and you get to do this, and you get to do that. And I think we have to do the same thing about school. Of course you're anxious. You haven't been there. You haven't been away from home. You don't know what friends are going to be in your class. You don't know what the school year is going to look like. There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, but you know what? That's normal.
Life is about unknowns.
Yeah.
And so if we can get them excited about being little journeyers, that's like the first people that got on those ships to say whether or not the planet is actually flat or curved, and is there a continent on the other side, and let's go find some spices and bring them home. They really are venturing out, and it's the curiosity and the excitement and the positivity that says, I don't know where this ship is going, but I'm going to get on it and I'm going to go be an explorer. And so with that curiosity, say, yes, you're going to be anxious, but
my kids use a word often around here, and it's probably one of my favorite words they use, and it's nervous-sighted.
Great word.
So they're nervous and they're excited, and I'm like, that's like first day of school. Oh, I'm so nervous-sighted.
Yeah, And in fact, if you break it down to the body phenomena of cortisol, adrenaline, all those the excitement of the central nervous system, there is no difference between anxiety and excitement.
Really?
No. So it's all about the subjective story that you're telling yourself. So people pay to go on roller coasters. Yeah. I do not know why. Because I have no interest in being that nervous-itis, whatever it is, or watching horror movies. I don't want to get emotionally dysregulated that way. But it's exactly that same phenomena. So it's about saying it's exciting, but there is this unknown. There is going to be this feeling. So it's about tolerating it and pushing forward.
Right. So now if let's talk about the social stuff for a minute too, because we haven't, the kids haven't been flexing their social muscles lately. Right. They've been hanging out with their parents, and I do think this, I even see with my dog, suddenly my dog wants to be with me all the time. I'm like, he's used to me being around me all the time. And now with the kids at camp, I'm like, this dog follows me everywhere I go, and he's just used to people being around. And I think the kids are like that. They're used to having their nuclear family around all the time, and they haven't been flexing these social muscles. What kind of things can parents be doing to maybe prepare them for that back to school? Because I do feel like they've also, there's developmental stuff that they've kind of missed out on.
Yeah, some have, for sure. But I think parents need to remember that we're not ducks. We don't have an imprinting stage. Like if you didn't learn how to fly or quack on week 4, then you're never going to learn how to fly or quack. We don't. We get delayed, and then we have to pick it up at some later time. Right. Even children that have terrible broken attachment situations because of their parents upbringing them can still go on and get married and repair that attachment by having a healthy, loving relationship with their partner. So we're trainable. We're trainable. We can make up the time, and so I think that's important not only for these developmental friendship type things, but also for the academics gap that we're going to have. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But because we're creatures of habit, and we've been in our comfort zone now, and this has been the pattern, and this has been the ritual, and the ritual is I get up and I know that I'm safe because I'm with my mom and I'm with my dad and my siblings, and I've gotten into this vibe and I know how the day goes. We need to take exactly those same characteristics and say, and you're now going to get ready with routines and rituals, and you're going to make friends at school, and to give them that faith that it might have been that you're used to playing with your siblings, but remember when you were in Cubs or Brownies or soccer club, and remind them how fun that is. And so now we need to go do a reset and get people set up in their classrooms with their teacher and jog their memory. But you kind of, if you want to do some drop-offs and set up some play dates or drop them off at aunts so that they just get a little bit of I can do some hard things and I'm okay. But I'm also kind of the mind, you can't start until you begin.
Right.
You can't practice standing up, or you just stand up. There's this, you can't practice the first day of school, just gotta go to first school. No, Having said that, yes, we can walk our kids around the schoolyard and remind them. And, you know, so we can find out. I saw a teacher had a great little thing where she sent to each of the kids in kindergarten. She had like one of those QR. No, what do you call the little scanning?
QR cards.
Yes, yeah. It was a little QR card, and when you scanned it, it was her reading a good night story to the kindergartens, and she was saying how excited she was to meet him in her class, and click here, and you can have a good night story by me, and that's a nice little preparatory
super cute
thing.
And I know with my kid with autism, when he was about to start kindergarten, I had a picture of the teacher on the fridge all summer.
Yeah.
Just so it was a familiar face, and you know, that sort of thing. So some kids have been exceptional online learners.
Yes.
Some kids have not.
Right.
Some kids have had all the tech at home and had perfect learning environments. Some kids have been sitting at the kitchen table fighting for like Zoom space with their parents who are working around that kitchen table as well. So we've all had different environments, different experiences, and now we're all returning to the classroom. And I think a lot of parents are feeling stressed about my kid's going to be behind, or my kid actually was a great online learner and they kind of don't want to go back, or like they're going to have be at different levels. Some kids are going to have to catch up. Some kids are going to feel a little bit ahead. What do you say to the parents who are stressing out about this academic?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the predicament that the educators are in.
Yeah.
I think it really speaks to what I've always wanted anyways, which is I think every kid should be on an IEP, an individual education plan, right? Where you know, if you're on a grade 4 in math and you're grade 6 in English, great, let's just honor that.
Yeah.
Like, let's get rid of these little cohorts, whatever. We need to be more individualistic in learning anyway, so I hope that the teachers are compassionate with that. It has been an unfair playing ground. That was one of the things that the pandemic showed, you know, that there was people with certain socioeconomic situations where their parents were frontline work, right? And you know, so we left behind a whole, you know, we marginalized people, and that's really unfair. And I'm really big into social equality. We do need to get people caught up. Yeah. So it is a problem. We do need an educational solution to it. But from a parenting point of view, I would say you're being scared and anxious or worried or intense about it is not helpful. And so what I mean by that is because there was a huge mental health crisis that happened with children that followed the lockdown, as we, you know, and like literally, and we were the longest in lockdown here in Ontario or Toronto, like than anywhere else. And the mental health issues, absolutely, when we were in lockdown, mental health went out of lockdown, came down. In lockdown,
really,
perfect graph.
Yeah.
So it was very hard on kids. And what was interesting is when they started looking at what was going on with some of these kids, the parents' expectation for kids' learning went up.
Right.
And so
that seems counterintuitive.
Totally counterintuitive.
Yeah.
I have no idea why parents thought that, but this is what the data has shown. Right. And when we look at what are some of the things that create the biggest stressors for children that drive them into their mental health issues,
parental pressure
around academics is one of them. Yeah, because if you're a kid, you know, in our culture, your job as a child is to get good grades at school. Like, even if you're the parent who says like, no, just try your best, try your best. And they're like, you know what? But I know an A is better than a C, and I know, you know, like there's too many cultural messages to kids. They know it, so they really feel like they're failing. They're so hard on themselves, harder than parents are. So we have to bring, again, you know, stay in touch with the teacher. Yeah. You definitely need to advocate for your kids. You need to be in constant communication. Don't hijack the teacher at the door. Yeah. You have to remember they're our version of a frontline worker. Like, they have a huge, I come from a family of educators. Like, their task is huge this year. So we want to work with them. Again, support cooperatively. Did this word not come up at the beginning of our talk? I love the cooperation piece. Yeah. We need to work with the school boards, but we do need to advocate. Mm-hmm. We need to stay on top of it and ask how we can be supportive. Yeah. And what their plan is and how we can adjunct things at home. And that could be working with peers to, you know, put the strong math person in the math group in with someone who's slower, or getting a tutor, or, you know, some people need to do separate online, like, you know, you can get your Ontario credits online anyways. We always have been able to do that. That's been around way longer than the pandemic. So, you know, you as a parent will have to problem solve around how best to do that. But we want it to be a problem that needs a solution, not parents freaking out and stressing and our kid feeling like I gotta produce or I'm being left behind. This whole scarcity mentality that only the cream rise to the top, and if I don't make it, I'm nothing.
It is so interesting what you say about cultural messages, because I have this one kid who puts a lot of pressure on herself academically, and I'm like, dude, you need to chill. Like, we're fine. Like, And she's like, no, it's not you. Because I'm like, what? Where did you get this? Daddy and I have never put pressure on you around this. She's like, no, it's not you. It comes from me. It comes from everywhere else. And I was just like, you gotta chill. Like,
yeah, you'll burn out.
Do you get it from other sources?
Yes, they do. No, there's a very big
internalize it. And, you know, like and it is interesting too. Like the teachers, I have a lot of teacher friends. My parents were both teachers. I was raised by a bunch of educators, and you know, even my teacher friends are saying, you know, the parents have to realize we know what we're walking into. We know the kids are going to be all over the map.
Right.
We got this.
Yeah, let them do their job.
Let us do our job.
I mean, it's not. You know? No, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna say it's a huge mammoth thing to figure out. Yeah. And every school board is doing it differently, and everyone's coming up with whatever. There's going to be some workarounds. We will be talking about the ripple effect of this for years to come. This is not like
this will be. There will be studies following.
There will be studies for sure. But if you want your child to have a good education, you've got to keep them excited about learning. And if you want to keep them excited about learning, they've got to stay invested in the process. They can't feel like all the adults are more worried about it than them. Right. It's their education. Yeah. They got to run the show. We can advocate, you know, but we can't take over. We can't pressure. We can't, you know.
So what's your take then on just things like, I think about what parents, you know, stress about with kids at school, like homework. You know, often parents will sit down with their kid and do their homework with them. Or do you think that's a good thing, or should kids like just be left, or like parents check in, or natural consequences? If they don't do well, then they fail, and then they learn from that. What's your kind of take for support? Because a lot of fighting in homes is around homework.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a lot of conflict.
Yeah, if I was if I ruled the world. Vote for me.
We have an election coming up.
Yes, we do. Oh my goodness. So and actually going back to some of the research that we have. Okay. I mean, if there's a book, Alfie Cohen, it's on my website. If you go to AlysonSchafer.com under resources, Alfie Cohen has a great book. And it spells out that we have enough research to show homework actually doesn't even just keep learning the same. It hurts children's learning. I hate homework.
I do too.
And to your point, you have such a small amount of time as a family.
Yeah.
That the value of actually playing Scrabble or shoveling the driveway together has a far bigger benefit to a child's upbringing than doing drill sheets for whatever.
Honestly, and they're in school 6 hours. It's enough.
Yeah. Well, we keep making the day longer because we think we're going to make smarter kids. And again, look at the countries that have the shortest school day have the highest marks.
Right.
And didn't we learn that with online learning too?
We sure did.
Look at these kids can actually be done in 3 hours.
Yes.
Apparently, so that part of that long day is part of so that we can mobilize the workforce because parents work 9 to 5, but kids need to play, they need to engage, they need to be doing extracurriculars, right? So I would get rid of homework, but I had kids. Yeah, there was homework for my kids. And I would say the way to think about it is like, as a parent, you have some responsibility in, like I said, to advocate and manage without overtaking. So think about it as a relationship like teaching your child to rock climb, where you need to make sure that they don't crash and burn. Mm-hmm. So you're going to belay them up the wall as they ascend in their skills development. Okay. Managing homework is a skill development. It could take years for kids to figure out time management and planning, and how long does it take for that poster board, on the planetary system to get done. And why are we running out to Michael's to buy styrofoam balls? Some of these things are complicated, and some kids are better with time management and more type A anyways, and some need a lot more support, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a parent, if you keep doing for them, if you keep saying you must sit down, you must practice now, you must do it after dinner, whatever, you're not really training your child to be independent. So it's about finding that sweet spot between what can they manage on their own and where do they need some scaffolding. Mm-hmm. And then when you see that the skill is sort of setting in, how can I take some of that scaffolding down, let out a little bit more leash, and it means allowing them to have some kind of fail. Yeah. And so you failed the test, or you didn't hand in the assignment, you lost 5 marks because it was late. That's how you learn. Yeah. But you don't want to wait till they go to university and you have been doing all this management, then that's like falling from the person who gets belayed to the top of Mount Everest and it crashes and breaks their neck. Right? But like twisting an ankle?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh, you wanted to get 10 out of 10 on your spelling dictate and you only got 7 out of 10 on your spelling dictate. Yeah. What do you think you might do differently? It sounds like you really want to get the 10 out of 10.
Yeah, right.
Well, maybe I should study longer. Would you like me to drill you?
Right.
let me know when when that would suit you. No, you can't. No, I'm not available to do it right now. I'm doing dinner. You'll have to right. I'm not gonna stop what I'm doing.
No, that's right.
You know, like I have a life too. So I mean, things like that where we can take a more coachy type approach. Is that a good example to?
I think that's a really
every grade and
example.
every kid is a little bit different, right? So you can't be super prescriptive.
Right. And it's funny what you said reminded me about, the playing the Scrabble or doing the driveway. I really learned this lesson about extracurriculars during COVID. Like I had 6 kids in hockey, the kids at the dance room, and our nights were basically like, okay, everybody quickly eat to get to, and now I'm like, you know what? They can just play on the court. They can just go in the pool. Like, in a way, when the first lockdown, my 2 university kids came home, and all of a sudden I'm like, this 6-kid thing, I'm like, it's my time to shine. They have social, they're in the pool, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons together. And I was like, they are not, I like not being at the arena every night.
Totally.
Yeah.
And again, looking at the research, when we look at the amount of connected relational time that parents have with kids, it's very, very short. That a lot of what we're doing is we're yelling to get them out the door when we hand them off to a teacher. Then we're yelling at them to finish up dinner because they got to get to their karate class.
Yeah.
And so we're handing them off to coaches and teachers and tutors and all these other people. And our job is basically yelling at them to get to this other person. Yeah. And we don't sit and actually enjoy one another and build those relationships and listen to them and have common experiences, which is how bonds are made. So I think many people during the pandemic realized life was too chaotic and we need to see each other more. Like kids were saying, I saw my dad for the first time. He wasn't all commuting and up out of the house before I go to school and coming home after I've gone to bed. Dad's really got an opportunity commuting parents, but there's one who's really like away.
No, for sure. Oh, Alyson, this has been really, really amazing. I honestly, we could talk all day, but can you just remind people where they can find you, where they can follow you, all that jazz?
Yeah, for sure. I think the best place to kind of check in with me is my website, AlysonSchafer.com. You can just type Alyson Parenting Expert or Canadian Parenting Expert because my name is spelled all wonky. But anyways, you will find me. Yeah. And then on the website, it's got all my social handles are all on there. Right. But to your point, the podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and the Facebook Live is, if you want to ask me a question, every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I just open up the floor for people who just want access to an expert, and check out the website.
Great. And everybody, we really hope you have a wonderful back to school season. I think the big takeaways here: stop stressing.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. You got this. We got this, right?
We got this.
We got this. Thanks again for joining us. And remember, to let us know how you're feeling. Do you have kids going back to school? Do you have kids going to school for the first time? We want to know. And if you have a question for Alyson, let us know, and maybe we can get some answers from her. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content here at Mabel's Labels.